The Druid in Diablo 4 isn't the shape-shifting Druid we all loved in Diablo 2, but it's for the better. Let me explain. This is a quick summary of the Druid class, so you can find out what to play in the beta and on release. So first, let's get into the skills and the skill tree. As of right now, the only weapons the Druid can use is the one-handed weapon, a two-handed weapon, and a staff. And the resource it uses is Spirit. The Druid skill tree is made up of 6 major nodes and 1 strong passive node called Capstone, which you unlock when you hit 35 skill points. So let's start with the basic attacks, which is your left click. Maul turns into a werebear, and you maul enemies in front of you, dealing 21% damage. And like I said at the beginning of the video, as of right now, we don't know any attack that permanently turns you into a werebear or werewolf, but certain attacks turn you into a werebear and werewolf for a certain amount of time. And I think that's really big because you can use storm abilities and shapeshift at the same time in all 6 of your nodes and your big, strong passive node, Capstone. Claw shapeshifts you into a werewolf, and you claw your enemy for 21% damage by generating 9 spirit. Earthspike generates 8 spirit, while impaling your enemies in front of you for 16% damage. Wind Spear generates 12 spirit, while throwing a piercing blade of wind, dealing 17% damage. And last, Stormstrike generates 15 spirit, while shooting around 28% of chain lightning. The next node on your skill tree is the Spirit node, which is your right click, and all you need to have to unlock this node is 3 skill points. Landslide spirit cost is 30, while crushing enemies between 3 pillars of earth. Here's the 3 passive nodes on your attack. To dive a little bit deeper on these passives, every ability on the Druid skill tree will have about 3 passives. And what these passives do, and we'll just use Landslide for an example. So this one is enemies hit by all 3 landslide pillars have a 25% chance to be immobilized for 3 seconds by the final hit. Raging Landslide is for 2 seconds after Landslide is cast, the spirit cost is reduced by 10. And Primal Landslide is when Landslide is increased critical strike chance by 10% and deals 30% increased critical hit strike damage against enemies who are stunned, immobilized, or knocked back. Tornado is one of my favorites from the D2 Druid, and it just rips through enemies, and here are the passives. Lightning Storm is a channeling ability that you can only have a max of 5 lightning strikes throughout the ability, and here are the passives. Shred is an ability that turns you into a werewolf, and you do a 3 attack combo. Pulverize is another shapeshift ability that you turn into a werebear and you slam the ground, dealing damage around your enemies. Also, some skill tree nodes have passives. On this tree, there's 2 passives. There's Heart of the Wild, with 2 passives that branch off from that original passive, and Predatory Instinct and the passives to follow. The next node on your skill tree is a defensive node, and which is primarily your Q, and you need 8 skill points to unlock this node. We have Cyclone Armor that grants 20% non-physical damage reduction. We have Bloody Howl that turns you into a werewolf while restoring 20% of life for 15 seconds. We have Earthen Bulwark is when you cast it, rocks surround you for 3 seconds, granting a barrier that absorbs 10% of your base health. We have Debilitating Roar that turns you into a werebear. Then you shout, reducing damage dealt of nearby enemies by 50% for 4 seconds. And we also have 1 skill tree passive, and it's called Ancestral Fortitude. And you also get Vigilance out of it. The next node on your skill tree is Companion, which is your W, and you need 13 skill points to unlock. Ravens summon a raven that attack a target for 89% damage. Wolves is when you summon 2 wolves, dealing 8% damage to enemies as a passive, but when you direct the attack, the wolves deal 36% damage. We have Vinegrieber that poisons the area for 38% for 6 seconds as a passive, but if you activate it on an enemy, it immobilizes the target for 2 seconds, dealing 32% damage. And this tree also has 2 passives as well. We have Call the Wild, and the other is Clarity. The next node on your skill tree is Wraith, which is your E, and you need 18 skill points to unlock. We have Hurricane. We all know Hurricane. The Hurricane orbits you, dealing 102 damage for 8 seconds. We have Boulder that unearths a large rolling boulder that knocks back enemies and crushes enemies for 35% damage. We have Trample that turns you into a rarebear, dashing forward, dealing 26% damage and knocking back enemies. We have Rabies, which we know from before, that turns you into a werewolf. And then if you bite an enemy, dealing 25% physical damage and 55% damage over time for 6 seconds. And just like Diablo 2, it has a poison cloud that surrounds and can get other enemies. There's 2 passives in the Wraith node. One is Mending into Provocation, and then we have Elemental Exposure that goes into Endless Tempest, Bad Omen, Charged Atmosphere, and Electrical Shock. The next node on your skill tree is the ultimate node, which is your R. You need 25 skill points to unlock this node. The first ability is Cataclysm, and you spawn a massive storm that follows you for 8 seconds, while tornadoes are knocking back enemies and lightning strikes are dealing 54% damage. Petrify is when you scare all enemies, stunning them for 3 seconds, and during that time you can deal 25 increased critical strike damage. Lacerate turns you into a werewolf, becoming immune and quickly dashing 10 times between enemies, dealing 420 damage. Grizzly Rage turns you into a werebear for 10 seconds, and during that time you gain 20% bonus damage and 20% damage reduction. For each second that passes, you get 3% damage per second. Kills extend this duration by 1 second and up to an additional 10 seconds. There's 2 passives on this ultimate node, and it's Quick Shift that goes into Heightened Senses and Natural Fortitude, and Defiance that goes into Circle of Life, Natural Disaster, and Renaissance. And this final node is strictly a passive node, and you can only pick 1 out of the 6. And you also need 35 skill points to unlock this node. Ursine's Strength is when you gain 20% additional to maximum life while in werebear form, and for an additional 3 seconds after leaving the werebear form. Max health, you gain 20% increased damage. We have Bestial Rampage is when after being a werewolf for 2.5 seconds, you gain 20% more attack speed for 15 seconds. And this also applies to the werebear. So if you're a werebear for 2.5 seconds, you deal 20% increased damage for 15 seconds. Lupine Ferocity is for every 6 hit in werewolf form, critical hit strikes deal 60% damage. Earthen Might restores all of your spirit and grants you a 100% critical strike chance for 5 seconds. Nature Fear is when casting an earth spell has a 20% chance to trigger a free storm kill of the same category. So in addition of casting that free storm kill, you have a 20% chance to trigger another earth skill from that same category. So quickly explain this, you could use Boulder and you get a 20% chance to trigger Hurricane, and after you trigger Hurricane, you have another 20% chance to trigger, let's say, Boulder again. Perfect Storm is a passive that grants 2 spirit and deals 20% increased damage when attacking a vulnerable, immobilized, or slow enemy. But now it's time for the best part. Every class has a special class ability. The Necro with the Book of the Dead, the Barbarian with the Arsenal system, and what the Druid has is the Spirit Animal Boons. 4 of them to be exact. The Deer, the Eagle, the Wolf, and the Snake. And you have to unlock all these spirits by doing quests in certain regions. Each animal boon has 4 passives that you can unlock as well, and you have to complete storyline or doing quests to unlock those. Once you have locked all of them, you can choose a total of 5 and in specializing in 1 spirit boon. So to quickly explain, you can go to Deer, pick Gift of the Stag, go to Eagle, pick Iron Feather, go to Wolf, pick Energize, and go to Snake and pick Overload. But you can pick one of these and get 2 of them. So I would go to Wolf and I would pick Pack Leader, for example. I don't know if I would pick it. I haven't played the class yet. I'm waiting for the 24th, which I'll be live streaming here on YouTube. I truly think you could be a tank for your team whenever you need to go out. Maybe you're doing dungeon and you need to help your team out. These animal boons are pretty good and I'm very excited to use them. So in my opinion, the Druid class is this. You have big AoE, you have good single target damage, you're tanky, but the problem is you have no movement. That would be my biggest con. It also has awesome attack types as in lightning and poison and physical, and that about sums it all up. If you want to support more of this content, do me a favor, hit subscribe and be a part of the first 1K. I want to hit YouTube partner as quick as I can, so hitting the subscribe button, hitting the like button, and watching this video to the end really helps me a lot. Barbarian is next on my class explanation review, and I'll go more in depth when I've played the character and redo these guides as we go. You can go to the top right hand corner of your screen, click the next video from my channel, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.